whether or not they realized they were doing so, continuously and disingenuously tried to hold Evola himself, as well as Jonathan Bowden, to some imagined standard of masculinity. Now, because their conception of the world is entirely materialistic, base and profane, their only framework for ascertaining masculinity was the idea of the Chad, who sleeps with a lot of women and who can handle himself in a fight. In fact, Evola himself somewhat prompted this in an essay in the late 1960s when he discussed masculinity in contemporary America. He said, equally correct is DeMarchi's analysis of American mores and the profound unease that, all appearances aside, plagues life in the United States as far as sex is concerned. The origin of this trouble lies in the early puritanical conception, which idolized women on a sexophobic basis. As late as the Victorian period, women were conceived as a superior spiritual being. The supposition that women could experience sexual emotions or yield to them and derive pleasure from them was considered insulting. A cliché of dignity and loftiness was thus imposed on women, who accepted it. In conjunction with female emancipation, this gave rise to a host of sexually inhibited, half-anesthetized and frustrated beings, who find their counterpart in the materialist male that lets himself be dominated by women and respects them in the most inane sense of the term, or, as a reaction, conforms to the stereotype of the tough guy, of the violent man, or of the gangster surrounded by babes. Hence the lack of any meaningful encounter between the two parts, the two sexes. Hence too a series of counterbalances and outbursts, starting from the excesses of the beatniks, alcohol abuse, the frenzied enthusiasm for jazz, and so on, which only worsen the situation. Interesting, isn't it, that we get the materialist male who lets himself be dominated by women and respects them in the most inane sense of the term, and we get the stereotypical guy surrounded by babes, which is the image of masculinity that Adam and Sitch return to time and again. Sitch even suggested that Evola was writing because he could not get women to sleep with him and called him an incel. He belittled Jonathan Bowden and suggested that he could not be taken seriously because he did not live up to whatever idea of masculinity he had in his mind.